Mmm. Who out there wants to join me for a nice, delicious piece of 4-layer vanilla frosted placenta? Man, that looks delicious. I just want to cut me up as Florida Maki. What did you call that? Well, its name. 4-layer vanilla frosted placenta. Right? That's the name. Okay, Maki, you've lost it. That is clearly a cake. You don't even know what a placenta... How am I even watching this channel? Why is this in my feed? This is what I'm getting. History. During the Roman period, the name for cake became placenta, which was derived from the Greek term. A placenta was based on a pastry based or inside a pastry case. The placenta of a mammalian pregnancy is so named for the perceived resemblance between its shape and that of a placenta cake. So in this case, most people have their egg and their chicken confused. You see, it's called a placenta, the thing that happens with pregnancy, because of the way it resembled a cake, not the other way around. Do you see how words can get changed over time? You see, if I had gone in the Roman era and asked folks if they'd like a nice, yummy piece of vanilla frosted placenta, they would have been all sorts of excited. But most people in my audience were completely reviled by it. Now, this, for many, many years in Europe, was cake. Also known by many other names, but what do we call it? Of course, it's bread. This, in Europe, to this day, is called pie. Little round dish, served hot, full of meat and sometimes cheese and chicken, mushroom, curry. This is a tart, not a pie. In fact, if you asked for pie for dessert in Europe, they'd look at you like you were crazy. It's absolutely an insane thing to see language change over time and people not keep up with history and know the meanings of the very words that they're saying. Now, what does this have to do with anything? Well, today over at the Florida Maki Patreon channel for everyone, the $1 folks, I did a breakdown of why 99% of people in North America who have gone into a church, exchanged rings and said vows and wore their dresses, they're not married biblically. They're not biblically married. What they've entered into, believe it or not, is a concubine arrangement. Now, what if I told you that the word you define as concubine isn't what you think it means? Many people equate a concubine with a prostitute or a harlot. Absolutely not the case biblically. Biblically, a concubine has a very different definition than what you believe it to be. So when you change words and the meanings of words over time, like marriage and concubine and pie, all this kind of stuff, you can manipulate people into believing things that aren't true and denying things that are. This is the art of psychological operations. Before the advent of the internet, governments used to print up huge flyers where they would say all sorts of things that were half-truths and partial lies, and they would drop them in third world countries where they knew most people didn't understand language, and they would just redefine words. And then it got so accepted and ingrained over time that it's almost an impossible thing to reverse because it's done to such large groups of people. Now, the issue with marriage, I can't talk about here. I have to talk about it over at Patreon. I would absolutely get kicked off this platform if what I said there, I said here. This particular video that I released only a couple hours ago, $1 per month. That's it. Even less if you sign up for an entire year. Fully refundable. Also available to the $5 folks, of course. But it breaks down, and I show you all of the historical changes in the names of words and what you believe, and what the rings used to be and what they are now, and how there was never any biblical basis for there being what we call no-fault divorce. And I don't think any women, especially, I don't think would enter into marriage in North America. Pardon me, they wouldn't enter into a marriage if they didn't have the belief that they could just go to a lawyer and for no reason whatsoever automatically have the divorce be, put into effect. Absolutely zero biblical basis for that whatsoever. So if you're in that arrangement right now, what you're in actually existed. The situation that you're in right now with, being able to just walk away whenever you want to, that existed in the ancient world. It was just a different arrangement. It was called concubinage, based on being a concubine. And that's just the reality. So once again, would love to have you at the Patreon channel. If you would like to get read in on this so you can share it with your friends, please share it with your pastor and see if he can open up the Bible and dispute anything that I've said. Would love to hear from any pastors out there who would like to dispute this, especially those who are familiar with the Old Testament. And oh, by the way, the New Testament was actually written during a time when there wasn't such a thing as Christianity. So basically everything is based on Jewish tradition and Jewish law. So you have to honor that. So like I said, $1 US, that's it. Fully refundable. First 90 days. No questions asked. We can partner with Vimeo, keep the censors away, and talk about things like this. Now, there's also an old saying here, and I wanted to do this video this last weekend, but of course with the holiday I didn't want to seem disrespectful. There's an old saying that goes, good soldiers make good husbands. However, great soldiers make terrible husbands. It's because of the definition of the job. No man can have two masters. You're either going to be a soldier, a really good soldier, and do what really good soldiers have to do, or you'll be a dad and a husband. You can't do both. There's lots of jobs in the military that don't require you that level of commitment. But great soldiers do not make good husbands, and this is something that's being realized by the military. Unfortunately, it doesn't jive with modern theosophical PC nonsense. Spec Ops in trouble, mired in scandal under Pentagon Review. What will it take to clean house? Of course, they have to pop up an ad every time I do this. And this is what they're talking about. They're realizing that the better a soldier is, the better they are at their job, the more trouble they're going to get in. And this is the case. Because while everybody loves to celebrate the idea of Memorial Day and then later on Veterans Day, what a lot of soldiers and a lot of veterans bring home is something that's not so desirable and not so conducive to good home life. And I'll have to leave that there. But speaking of being a good soldier, I would be remiss in my duty if I didn't spend every day defending the state of Florida and our governor. Now, believe it or not, Mr. Draft Dodger here, Mr. I lettered in 3 sports while not saying that I could serve in Vietnam because I had bone spurs. There's a wonderful clip of Donald Trump, 1992, Jim Kelly shootout where he throws a football to qualify for $1 million, and everybody's so excited that this guy can throw a football. Most people didn't realize that he was track, and he was football, and he was baseball, and one other sport. He was in 4 sports when he was in college, and his daddy got him out of the Vietnam draft during that time because they said he couldn't march because he had bone spurs in his feet, but he could letter in 3 different sports. I always thought that was odd, but of course cowards like this have to attack women. Kaylee, what he believes is milk toast spelled with a K when really it's spelled MILQUE toast. McEnany just gave out the wrong poll numbers on Fox News. I am up 34 points on DeSanctimonious. Not 25 up, while 25 is great. It's not 34. She knew the number was corrected upwards by the group that did the poll. The rhinos and globalists can have her. Fox News should only use real stars. Imagine being that insecure about your life that when you hear a poll misquoted by 9 points, that you need to go denigrate your former press secretary. And everybody's picked up on this. Like, how insecure and small of a man must you be? You heard a poll. that says that you're winning by 25 points when you believe it should be more. And so you're going to go after some woman old enough to be your granddaughter and attack her and call her names. You see, the reason I do this, and a lot of people ask, why do you do this, Florida Monkey? Why do you care? It's not that Trump has attacked DeSantis. That's bad enough. He sided with Disney and attacked Florida. He sided with Disney and attacked Florida. You see, that's the crime here. And this is his quote. Florida's crime rate is at a what was his quote? Governor DeSantis, Florida's crime rate's 50-year low. And that's the fact. And what did Trump say? Here it is. Remember, I left that decision up to governors for COVID death rates per state. Ron, as governor of Florida, did worse than New York. Now he's sounding like the liberals for sure there. Trump wrote on March 22, in education, Florida ranks among the worst in the country. And on crime statistics, Florida ranked third worst in murder, third worst in rape, third worst in aggravated assault. For 2022, Jacksonville was ranked as one of the top 25 major crime cities in the country, with Tampa and Orlando not doing much better. So let's just clear the air on this. On U.S. states with most murder. Most dangerous state is California. 3,498 homicides. Coincidentally, California is the most populous state in North America. Second position, Texas, 2,993 homicides. That's an interesting coincidence. Texas is the second most populous state in North America. The third most dangerous state in the U.S. is Florida with 2,087. What another coincidence. The third most populous state has the third most homicides. Imagine this. The top 1, 2, and 3 for murder is just based on population. California, Texas, and Florida. California, Texas, and Florida. You will see at the top of every list, California, Texas, and Florida. Because we have the most people. This is how bright Mr. Trump is. This is what he does. He takes stuff out of context and tries to make it seem like things are far worse than what they are. Now he is literally siding with the left when it comes to the whole COVID thing. COVID death rates per state. Apparently now, freedom is a bad thing. Apparently, it's one of those things that when it interferes with Mr. Trump's agenda, that we need to start thinking about doing things differently. You see, here would be my question, Mr. Trump. And I would like an honest answer from any of his supporters on this, especially when it comes to warp speed. And this idea of lockdown and all this nonsense that happened under him. Some people have said, and they've made the allegation, and this is a question, that because COVID wasn't nearly as bad as what they were making it out to be, that the lockdowns were an overreach. Basically saying if COVID had been far worse, that it would have been okay for government to tell people when they can and can't go outside, where they can and can't wear masks, when their businesses can and can't be open, where they can and where they can and can't worship. That if the disease were more serious, that if it had been something much, much, much worse, then government would have been justified in doing all of those things. You see, in Florida, we made a completely different allegation. We made the allegation that it's not up to the federal government to determine the seriousness of these things. They don't have this kind of power, regardless of whether it's a disease that has a 97% survival rate, a 63% survival rate, a 22% survival rate. It's not up to government, period, to lay down these orders. That's up to the people. That's up to the people to make their own decisions. And that's why Trump is a leftist. Because that's what he's saying, in essence, is that because he left it up to the governor, and the governor did what the governor did, that things worked out badly, and it could have been better, and all this, when none of that is true. None of that is true whatsoever. You see, there would have been people here in Florida that, let's say the other guy had won. Let's say that Gillum had won instead of Trump, we wouldn't have listened to him either. It wouldn't have mattered. We're still going to go out, get together, and we were going to do it. We wear masks if we want to, wear masks if we don't want to. We wouldn't have listened to him either. Wouldn't have mattered. You see, but Ron DeSantis knew this, and he acknowledged this. The people of Florida aren't going to be told what to do by the federal government. Period. Because it's not their purview. If things turn out badly, then that's on us. No skin off your nose in California if Florida doesn't do the things the way that you do them. No skin off your nose, Michigan. No skin off your nose, New York. Florida's going to do what Florida's going to do. See, but this is the problem. Trump doesn't get that. And this is the part that people really need to pay attention to. Why does Trump feel the need to make you believe that only good things can come from Washington, D.C., and only if he's in charge? Do you want any one man to have that power? Governor DeSantis has never made the allegation that he, by name and he only, can save America. That's the allegation that Trump is making. What Governor DeSantis is saying, conservative ideas, conservative ideals, working together as a team, like we have here in Florida, with our House, with our Senate, with our courts, with our local sheriffs, everybody pulling together as a team doing it, gets the job done. Not just one guy. Let me ask you then this follow-up. Who is his team? You're telling me that the guy that you want to put in charge wants to do it all by himself, just by himself, by mandate. What do you call that? How is that not being a dictator? Does he have a team? Does he have anybody around him now he hasn't demonized? His vice president, his secretary of state, his press secretary, virtually everybody has somehow come out on the wrong side of Mr. Trump because they won't acknowledge that he alone by name is the savior. And if you believe this is the case, that it's him and only that one man can do it in 4 years, you need to have your head checked. You need to look in the mirror and go, wait a minute. Why do I believe only this one guy? Only this one guy with no team. With no team. Just a bunch of people voting for him. Name one person. And believe me, it changes from month to month to year. 1 year, somebody is wonderful and great and fantastic, and the next, they're terrible. Pence was great until he wasn't. Then we're going to get our rope and we're going to do this to Pence, and all of a sudden, Pence is a good guy again. It's just insane. So, I will leave it there. So, names change, things change. Definitions of names and things change. And they change so much sometimes that they're shocking. 4-layer vanilla frosted placenta. Delicious. Oh, look at this cake. Look at this wonderful butter-covered cake. And who hasn't had a nice steak and ale or chicken curry pie? Or cherry tart? So, anyway, I will leave it there. God bless. Have a wonderful rest of your week. Like, share, subscribe. We'll see you guys next time.